Update. Am I the a-hole for not going back to my wife after she threatened to call the cops on me? Original post. My wife and I recently welcomed our 6-month-old baby. And since my wife returned from the hospital, it feels like everything has changed drastically. Before this, we were the kind of couple you'd think had it all. Never argued, always happy, and just solid. But now, it's like the person I knew and loved is gone. Her anger and resentment toward me are so intense, I can practically feel it whenever I'm near her. I tried to brush it off, thinking it might just be the exhaustion and stress from having a newborn, but it only got worse. After months of tiptoeing around, I finally reached my limit. 2 days ago, it all exploded. We got into a terrible fight that quickly turned into a shouting match. I couldn't believe the things we were saying to each other. It was the worst fight we've ever had, and in the middle of it, she screamed that she'd call the police on me. That statement stopped me cold. I wasn't even yelling anymore. I was just standing there, stunned. I felt betrayed and heartbroken, like a stranger was standing in front of me, not the woman I'd married. When she finally stormed off to another room, I just sat there in silence, unable to process what had happened. I felt like I was backed into a corner. It hit me hard that this wasn't just some heated argument we'd look back on and laugh about later. This was something that could change my life in ways I couldn't imagine. I didn't want to be in a situation where I was at risk of having the police involved over a misunderstanding or an accusation. So I made a decision. I grabbed whatever I could think of, some clothes, my phone, and my keys, and left. Now I'm staying at a friend's place. He's been really supportive, but he says I'm just not myself these days. And he's right. I feel like a shell of the person I was. My wife, meanwhile, has been reaching out, saying she wants to talk. My mother-in-law even came over with my baby, asking me to hold her and see if that might help heal things. But I had to refuse. As much as it hurt to say no, I knew that if I held my daughter, I'd be tempted to go back home. And then what? Go back into a situation where a single argument could lead to a call to the cops? My mother-in-law is trying to mediate, making excuses for my wife. She's telling me that my wife didn't mean it, that it was just words said in the heat of the moment. But that's not something you can take lightly. I can't just forget that she threw that threat out there. It changes the entire foundation of trust we built over the years. My mind is constantly spinning, and a sense of loss weighs heavy on me. I lost my home, my wife, my child, and a life we built together all in one moment. People tell me to just talk it out with her, that maybe I'm overreacting. But how do you talk out something like this? How do you go back to normal after feeling betrayed like that? I'm dealing with depression on top of everything else, and I keep questioning if there's even a path forward for us. Is there a way to forgive and forget? Or has the trust really been shattered beyond repair? Now for the top comments before reading the update 25 days later. Can you explain why the threat of cops being called is an issue at all? Are there marks on her? Do you have warrants? You can't go to jail for having a verbal argument. Cops don't care if my kind has done anything bad, they just shoot. I don't have warrants, but I have had cops harassing me for hours for simply walking. I don't even remember why verbal arguments started, but it was a mix of everything wrong with me, my family, and other BS. Can I ask how your wife was radiating hatred? Did you talk to her about how you felt? Did she know you thought she hated you? What do you mean when you say you snapped? What does that entail exactly? Was there something specific you said or did that made your wife threaten to call the cops? Or did it just come out of nowhere? Did she say what she was gonna tell them when they got there? You said after tolerating a lot you snapped. What did she do that you were tolerating? Do you know anything about PPD or other postpartum conditions? Would you recognize the symptoms? I know that's a lot of questions, but I just feel like there's a lot of context missing here that could drastically change the story. Would you be asking the context if OP was a woman? Extreme personality change is a mental health emergency considering you have a helpless infant. Yes, PPD is real, and sickness and health are in the vows usually. It's her first baby, and she doesn't even realize it probably. And so what? If he does get falsely accused and ends up having his life ruined, at least he fulfilled his vows? This is insane. As somebody that has been arrested due to both a woman and laws in place, he will get screwed. My state has a mandatory arrest for a DV call. Dude will only make his life more difficult. I was in jail with a guy who called the cops on his wife for punching him, and he was in there with me. Now for the update. I did talk to her on the phone, and she can't seem to comprehend why I was so upset that she threatened to call the cops on me. It was like she couldn't wrap her head around the gravity of what she has done. She did apologize, but she still thinks I overreacted. As soon as I left, my eating disorder vanished. Then when I talked to her on the phone, the depression started settling again. I have filed for divorce. I have no clue what the divorce will look like, but one thing I know is that I will never feel safe with my wife again ever. Divorce is the right thing to do, for both of us. Don't talk to her on the phone or in person without a lawyer present. Text her or email her that all communication must be through a lawyer going forward. She was already ready to make up stories to the cops about you, which means she was full or ready to ruin your life. Don't give her the chance to make stuff up with no witnesses present to point out she's full of it. Get a voice recording app on your phone and make it easily accessible. She might try to contact you in person. Document everything. Basically, threatening to call the cops during an argument, especially when no one's getting hurt or in actual danger, is a really bad move. It's like using the police as a weapon, and it can have some seriously messed up consequences for the person on the receiving end of that threat. I'm really confused on why people are condoning divorce so quickly. Like, okay, I get it. If your wife has been threatening to call the cops on you on a regular basis, this is a fair reaction. But 6 months after giving birth with a drastic personality change, untreated PPD is a very real thing. Take some space sure to protect yourself. Document. But just jumping to divorce? Seems kinda a-holish to me. This update is 25 days later and nothing in the original post or the update suggests that the wife is doing anything to recognize it might be PPD and get it treated. If it were 2 days later, I might say bring it up and see how she reacts. But after almost a month? If she's still downplaying what she did and not mentioning working to get some sort of treatment, it suggests to me that either there's a conversation where OP mentioned it and his wife blew it off, and or that no one else in the wife's orbit has mentioned it. If OP's wife was coming from a place of, I did something really horrible, I haven't been myself, I need help, then maybe divorce isn't the only option. But if the writing is on the wall that he is going to have to fight uphill against his wife, and potentially a lot of people around her to get a PPD diagnosis and treatment to explain this, I don't blame him for walking away from that. And even if she was getting PPD treated, sometimes the betrayal that one partner does during a mental health crisis is too big to overcome. It can also be used as a tactic to minimize what she did. Like, you can't be mad at me for that, I had PPD. So a diagnosis is not always a solution in these cases. Not a-hole. Tell mother-in-law that her daughter needs counseling and perhaps medical treatment for PPD, and until that happens, you are in danger from her. You might also express the child might be in danger also, and try to get emergency custody for either yourself or your mother-in-law. Do not make any promises of reconciliation, and never be alone with your wife. I am sorry you are experiencing this, OP. I am also sorry for your wife, as she is obviously suffering some form of mental illness at the moment. However, you need to protect yourself first and foremost. See if the lawyer can file something with police as she keeps making threats, etc. Next story. Am I the a-hole for using my scared pregnant wife's cravings against her to drive her to the hospital during labor when she absolutely wouldn't? My wife and I have been together for 6 years, and a few months ago we welcomed our first child, a beautiful baby girl. However, the tension between us began on the day of our daughter's birth and hasn't let up since. In the final 2 months of her pregnancy, my wife was overwhelmed with anxiety about giving birth. As her due date approached, she became so distressed that she couldn't even speak with her doctor without breaking down at the mere mention of labor. She seemed to be in denial, as if ignoring it would somehow make it go away. I tried to encourage her to see a therapist or at least talk to someone, but she shut me down every time, insisting she just wasn't ready. On the day she went into labor, she was clearly experiencing strong contractions, yet she kept insisting they were minor and refused to go to the hospital. My mother, her mother, both of our sisters, and I all tried to reason with her, but nothing seemed to get through. She was determined to stay home, even though she was obviously in active labor. At that point, my sister and I knew we had to step in. Throughout her pregnancy, my wife had been craving churros, so my sister casually mentioned she was going to pick up some, hoping this might coax her out of the house. My wife, eager for the distraction, agreed to go along. However, my sister and I had already decided we were taking her straight to the hospital. When she realized our plan, her face fell. She started to cry and panic in the car, but we knew it was the only way. Thankfully, everything went smoothly, and she delivered safely. Both she and the baby were healthy. It's been a few months, but my wife continues to bring up that day, throwing it in my face whenever we argue. Each time, I apologize and reassure her, explaining that I understood her fear and that my intentions were only for her safety and our babies. There was no ill will, yet she continues to paint me as if I had done something terrible. This time, when she brought it up again, I finally snapped. I told her that if she thinks she's helping our marriage by being this way, she's wrong. I told her that if I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't hesitate, because in that moment, I couldn't trust her judgment for the safety of herself and our baby. I explained that I would no longer engage in this conversation unless she's willing to communicate in a constructive, healthy way. In response, she accused me of dismissing and stonewalling her, calling me an a-hole for standing firm on wanting productive communication. I don't respond well to name-calling, especially since I've never spoken to her or anyone in that way. My frustration boiled over and I ended up saying something I now regret. Talk to me in that tone again and you'll be a single mom real quick. She hasn't stopped crying since. I feel terrible because I know my words were harsh, but I felt like I needed to stand up for myself after months of being constantly berated. Now I'm questioning if I went too far or if this was the only way to get through to her. Now for the top comments. If you still want to remain married, I suggest speaking to her healthcare provider and therapists, or reach out to service providers to see why she is acting this way. They also need to see a counselor. It's never a bad idea, but wife needs it yesterday. Opie does not. Not the a-hole, but you have a bigger problem. She was putting herself and your baby at risk. She does not sound mentally sound. If she cannot see that still after all this time, you have a big problem that needs professional intervention. Yeah, for real. I can understand being upset at that time, especially since she was dealing with so much anxiety. I had panic attacks at the thought of giving birth when I was pregnant with my first. It's an absolute horrifying thought. She should be able to look at the situation now and understand that Opie stepped up and made a hard choice to take matters into his own hands. He kept his wife and child safe. I'm really not sure what she thought was going to happen otherwise. Last story. Am I the a-hole for wanting to leave my husband after he blamed me for our baby's death and started treating me like an animal? 2 years ago, we lost our 8-month-old son to pneumonia. I was devastated, and the guilt and pain have never left me. I did everything I could for him. I took him to every appointment, gave him his medication, and followed all the doctor's orders. But even after all that, he didn't survive. I thought my husband and I would grieve together, but instead, he has spent these 2 years blaming me, constantly reminding me that a better mother wouldn't have let this happen. The worst part is how he treats me now. Since our son's death, he's turned cold and cruel, treating me like an animal. He's openly disrespectful, dismissive, and degrading, and he brings up our son's death at every opportunity to paint me as a failure. It hurts even more because he's taken this grief as a free pass to cheat on me, and I'm just expected to accept it. A few months ago, I saw him in the mall with another woman. They were walking together, laughing, and he looked happy. I confronted them both on the spot, hoping he'd at least feel some shame, but instead he got furious. He turned it around on me as saying I had no right to be upset when, according to him, I'm the reason he lost his son in the first place. He even told the woman I was unstable, and she looked at me with pity, like I was some kind of deranged ex. That moment felt like I hit rock bottom. Now I'm at a breaking point. I don't know if I can take any more of his abuse, accusations, or infidelity. But every time I consider leaving, I feel like he'll just tell everyone that I abandoned him and couldn't handle my supposed guilt. Some people in his family already think I'm the reason our son died, thanks to what he's been saying behind my back. It's like he set me up to look like a monster no matter what I do. Am I the a-hole for finally wanting to walk away from this marriage? Or am I selfish for even thinking of leaving him while he's still grieving, even if his grief has turned into resentment and cruelty toward me? Not the a-hole. He abandoned you 2 years ago. Filed for divorce stating the reason is abuse and infidelity. Tell everyone what happens behind closed doors. He is verbally and mentally abusing you. If it is your fault, then you should recognize that it's more his than anyone's. Did he drive your child to appointments? Of course he didn't. Did he do everything in his power like you? It seems not. I'm sorry for your loss, and I hope you can escape this POS so you can heal. He did abandon me emotionally long ago, but I've been clinging to the idea that we could somehow rebuild, even as he's torn me down. I needed to hear that it's okay to be honest about what's really happening, and that filing for divorce isn't a failure on my part. Your point about his lack of involvement really hit home. I realize I've been carrying the weight of this alone. He's purposely treating you like garbage so he can get rid of you, plus play the victim again for being abandoned. You know he's the victim no matter what you do, so you might as well leave and get your life back. I hope you can get some grief counseling. What he said and done is totally unhinged and unacceptable. Not the a-hole. No parent should have to endure the loss of a child, and it's heartbreaking that your husband has turned his grief into something so cruel and destructive. You did everything you could for your son, and no one has the right to blame you for his illness or his passing. The way your husband is treating you, using your son's death to manipulate, control, and degrade you, is abusive and completely unacceptable. You deserve support, compassion, and a chance to heal, not to be treated like this. Walking away from this toxic behavior is not selfish. It's an act of self-preservation. You have every right to prioritize your well-being and find a path to healing, even if that means leaving him. It's been incredibly hard, and sometimes I feel like I'm losing my mind trying to justify staying with someone who constantly twists my grief into something I should be ashamed of. I love my son with everything I had, and hearing someone else say I did my best helps more than you know. Part of me keeps hoping my husband will come around, but with everything he's done and said, I'm realizing that his pain doesn't excuse his cruelty. Your words make me feel a little less alone and a bit more justified in thinking about leaving and focusing on my own healing. Update. I, 28 male, want a divorce from my wife, 27 female, but everyone wants me to forgive her. Original post. My wife and I have been married for 3 years. First, let me say that as far as I know, my wife hasn't been struggling with any issues. And we've known each other since grade school. We literally know everything about each other and our families. About 2 months ago, I came home and found my wife and our 6-month-old daughter on a couch. My wife was asleep and my daughter was lying next to her. The moment I went over to greet them, I could smell that my daughter needed a diaper change. I didn't know how long it had been since her last change, but I didn't want to disturb my wife. She never naps during the day. So if she was asleep, I figured she must have had an especially hectic and exhausting day. I took our daughter to her room and placed her on the changing table to change her diaper. I was just getting started when, not even 2 minutes later, my wife came into the room. As I greeted her, she looked at me, then down at our daughter on the changing table, and suddenly flew into a rage. She started yelling and physically attacking me. I was completely stunned and didn't know what was happening. Instinctively, I leaned over our daughter to shield her from the blows. My wife was screaming and hitting me, shouting, "How could you?" over and over again, calling me a monster. I was in shock and had no idea what she was talking about. Everything had been perfectly normal that morning when I left for work. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary, and there had been no signs of any problems. She then ran out of the room, and about 5 minutes later, 3 police officers showed up and placed me in handcuffs while my wife was in hysterics, claiming she had caught me sexually assaulting our daughter. I was completely speechless and couldn't comprehend what was happening. I asked her what she was talking about, but all she kept saying was that she saw me doing it. I was arrested and spent the night in custody. Fortunately, I was released the next day when the police reviewed the camera footage from our daughter's room. The footage clearly showed that I was only changing her diaper and that nothing inappropriate had happened. There was no evidence to support my wife's accusations, and it was evident that she had attacked me without any provocation. After being released, I felt numb. I couldn't believe that my wife would even think I was capable of doing something so horrific, let alone accuse me of it in front of the police. The moment those words came out of her mouth, it was like all the love I had for her just evaporated. Since then, I have felt nothing but an emptiness inside, a void where my feelings for her used to be. I had divorce papers served to her a week ago, and since then, my phone has been blowing up with calls and texts from her, apologizing repeatedly. But honestly, I don't care about her apologies. In over 374 messages, she hasn't given me a single explanation for what happened, or why she thought I would harm our daughter. All she says is sorry and that we should try marriage counseling or individual therapy. I don't want counseling. She can go if she wants, but I won't be involved. I am also pursuing full custody of our daughter. My lawyer has informed me that given the circumstances, including my wife's violent outburst which was caught on camera, the fact that I had to shield our daughter from her, and the false accusations she made against me, there is a good chance I will be awarded full custody. Her behavior raises serious concerns about her mental state, and I want to ensure my daughter is in a safe environment. Despite everything that happened, my family, her family, and even some of our friends are insisting that I'm taking things too far by seeking a divorce and aiming for full custody. They say I should give her another chance, but nobody can explain why she did what she did or offer any justification for her actions. Even my wife hasn't been able to provide a reason in all her messages. I feel worn down as the gravity of everything starts to hit me. I'm mentally and emotionally exhausted from dealing with the fallout, and I'm questioning whether I'm missing something. Why is everyone on her side? What could have driven her to make such a horrific accusation without any evidence? I'm at a loss and I don't know what to do anymore. If anyone has any advice or insight, I'd really appreciate it. What am I missing here? Now for the top advice before reading the update. You do not need to stay in this relationship no matter what caused her to snap. She physically attacked you, she called the police, and said you assaulted your own daughter. If you feel divorce is the best option and have mentally checked out, it is the best option. Honestly, at the moment, I'm thinking that something is wrong with me. I don't see myself ever getting past this. What about the next time I'm alone in a room with my daughter, playing with her or anything? Divorce is the only option for me, as I will not be in a relationship that I have to constantly look over my shoulder, especially if I did nothing wrong. If anything, you're missing something really significant. If you hadn't had cameras in the room to prove your innocence, you'd be in jail right now, awaiting trial for one of the most horrible crimes imaginable. Your wife would be divorcing you, and your life would be utterly destroyed. You'd likely never see your daughter again, you'd be unemployable, and you'd be shunned by both family and friends. I'm not usually one of those dump her Reddit folks, but in this situation, you don't have any other option in my opinion. There's no coming back from a false SA accusation. There's no apology she can offer that could ever make things right. Hire the best attorney you can afford, and scorch the earth. If your family or friends don't agree, forget them. They don't matter. I guarantee that if there was no cameras, they would have been on your wife's side. If you feel you need to divorce, then you do what you need to do. It's a hard situation and will be difficult, especially with the legalities around it all. But staying is not going to do you any good. That is a given, but I can't understand if I'm missing something. Especially my friend that know the full story and still taking her side, saying divorce is a step too far. I feel like I'm missing something that I'm not seeing. Was I wrong to change my daughter's diaper? Should I have woken up my wife to do it? Should I just have left her like that? Now for the updates a month later. Quick update as life has been hectic lately, especially with everything going on. The divorce is currently in progress. My daughter is in my custody and my lawyer has assured me that it's almost certain I will be granted full custody. Given the circumstances, my soon-to-be ex-wife will likely only be allowed supervised visits with our daughter. As for what actually happened, it turns out that my wife had a dream, and when she walked into the room and saw me changing our daughter, she somehow confused the dream with reality. In her mind, what she had dreamed seemed real, and that's what led her to accuse me of something so horrific. It's difficult to wrap my head around how a dream could cause such a drastic reaction, but that's the explanation I've been given. I'm still processing everything, and it's been a whirlwind of emotions. Between dealing with legal matters, caring for my daughter, and trying to understand how things got to this point, life has been anything but calm. I'll provide a full update when I have more time, but for now, that's where things stand. I am sorry your family is ruined, but you are doing the right thing. You need to protect yourself and your daughter. I don't think mentally healthy people act like that because of the dream they had. She was awake long enough to call the cops and to give them statements. If it was hallucinations, psychosis, delusions, she is most likely paranoid schizophrenic. What if her next dream will be that your house is contaminated with some lethal poison and she has to burn it? Or you or your baby are demons and she has to unalive you? You are not in prison and not on a certain list by pure luck. Your life is not ruined by pure luck. Next time, you might not be so lucky. She needs professional mental health evaluation and lifelong mental health help. Getting yourself and your baby out of that situation was absolutely the right decision and should have been your top priority. You did a correct thing. That said, I think a lot of people on the forum are dismissing your soon-to-be ex-wife's reaction as simply something unreasonable and stupid that she had full control over. I'd like to point out that this may not necessarily be the case. For example, if she wasn't getting enough sleep or wasn't sleeping for long enough periods, example getting up every 3 hours all night to tend to the baby without napping during the day, sleep deprivation could be a factor. Sleep deprivation is no joke. It can cause hallucinations, paranoia, delusions, disorientation, irritability, violent outbursts, and severely impair one's judgment among other things. And that's assuming there weren't any other underlying issues, such as postpartum depression, PPD, or pre-existing trauma. Personally, I'd want to understand whether her behavior was truly within her control, or if there was contributing factors before proceeding directly to divorce. Next story. My male 33 wife, female 34, grieves over a child I never told or agreed would have. How to move forward. My wife, female 34, and I, male 33, have been married for 7 years and together for 10. Back then, we didn't discuss children in detail, except to say that she wanted 1 or 2 at some point. And I agreed. 1, maybe 2 at most. 4 years ago, we had our first child, male 4, and 2 years later, our second child, male 2, was born. After the first, I already felt it was challenging enough. But I agreed to have a second child, reasoning that having a sibling would be good for our first. For me, that was it. I didn't want any more children. And I thought my wife felt the same. We didn't really discuss it further after that. Now that our second has turned 2, my wife wants to try for a third child. She says she wants a big family now. I'm not on board with this. I never wanted that. I told her how I felt and stood my ground. There's been a lot of crying on both sides, and we've each given our arguments, but we're both convinced we're right. There's no way to compromise on this issue. You can't have half a baby. My wife has been having periods of intense sadness, sometimes crying for entire days. On those days, she can't even look at me. Other times, it seems like she has come to terms with it and life goes on. We have 2 small children to take care of, and life is busy. On those days, I think we'll be okay. But then another wave of grief hits, and it feels like she's mourning the idea of a baby I never agreed to have. I'm not sure how I can help the situation further because to me, there are only 2 possible outcomes. She comes to terms with having 2 children, or we end up breaking up because she wants to find someone else who is willing to have a third child with her. Is there a third option that I'm not seeing? I feel like I'm walking on eggshells. And I've even started telling people who visit not to bring up innocent questions like, when's the third one coming, in order to avoid triggering another emotional episode. If anyone has experienced a similar situation and found a way through it, I'd appreciate hearing your stories. Any small details or advice that could help her or me would be welcome. Have you asked your wife why she wants another baby? Is it just about the idea of having a large family? Or is it that she wants a girl? I think that's worth unpacking. Not that it will solve your issue, of course, but it might help you understand what she feels is missing from your family at present that another baby might add. She says now it's the big family. Although yes, she did hope for our second to be a girl. Not sure if that still plays, and she's ashamed to say it. As you mentioned, it doesn't solve or change the situation though, so I stopped pondering about that. Marriage counseling and possibly individual therapy for your wife, not because there's anything wrong with her. It's absolutely reasonable for her to discover along the road of having 2 children that she wants 3, and it's absolutely reasonable for you who only wanted 1 and possibly 2 to realize that you don't want any more children. But she is grieving a genuine emotional loss, and therapy can help her work through that. But marriage counseling is also necessary to help the 2 of you work through the realization that 2 people can love each other and not want exactly the same out of life, and more importantly, how to move forward. Unavailable where we live, unfortunately. I've proposed to find it online through video calls, but that hasn't been taken up yet. It feels like true grievance, and I give her all the space she needs when it happens. She won't look at me during these periods, so I think therapy in person, even if it would exist here, would be difficult. She needs therapy, and badly. Spending whole days crying and fostering this bitterness towards you isn't good for her or the family she already has. Honestly, I wonder how much of that is genuine grief, and how much is demonstrative crying a la, "See what you are doing to me, you monster," to manipulate him. If it's actually genuine, then she's probably depressive AF and needs help. Anyway, it's definitely not normal to wallow your grief for a potential child this much when you have 2 actual kids to take care of. I wonder what it's doing to them to see mommy cry for days on end. At this point, they're mostly ignoring it, and she goes upstairs to cry in the main bedroom. Children are not allowed to go up the stairs. I have also brought up the point to try and be happy and care for our 2 current children, but it gets ignored and said there is a room for a 3rd. Last story. My 34 female husband, 30 male, said I wasn't attractive enough to cheat on him. My husband is gorgeous. Everybody says so. I consider myself pretty but unremarkable. My features aren't exactly supermodel material, but I do the best I can with what I've got. I have nice skin thanks to skincare, a decent body thanks to the gym, and so on. But compared to my husband, I might as well be a troll. Even my own mom thought my husband might be gay or hiding something sketchy because of how much more attractive he is than I am. It's the first thing people seem to notice when we're out. I've had women flirt with him right in front of me, and 2 girls I know even try to get with him behind my back. Sometimes I even question why he is with me. I'm insecure about it, but my husband has always reassured me, saying he loves me and thinks I'm beautiful, and that I shouldn't listen to other people. Yesterday changed everything. I bumped into an old boyfriend from college. We had parted on good terms, and it turns out he's doing well in his career. I'm considering changing jobs, and I'm pretty decent at what I do, so we exchanged LinkedIn information. There wasn't anything inappropriate about our conversation, and I wouldn't have had any problem if my husband had been there to hear it. As soon as I got home, my husband started an argument. He said he had read through my LinkedIn messages and was convinced that my ex was flirting with me. I told him he wasn't. My husband then started making fun of my ex's looks, saying some of the cruelest things I've ever heard him say. I told him to stop and said we could talk when he wasn't acting like this. He responded, "If that guy becomes your coworker and you cheat on me," then he scoffed and said, "You're not attractive enough to cheat on me, not enough to keep me." I was speechless. He then slammed the door to our bedroom and locked me out for the night. I ended up sleeping on the sofa. At some points, I vaguely remember him waking me up, and when I woke up, I was tucked into bed. Today, he was incredibly sweet and kissed me before leaving for work. I can still remember everything that happened, but it feels like an out-of-body experience. I have never heard him say anything like that before, ever. I feel so upset and uncomfortable. What do I even say to him? How do I just ask him what he was thinking? What possessed him to say the things he did? And if he really meant them? His mask slipped. Note how he realized it. Went and got her off the couch during the night and was all back to super sweet, kissy husband the next morning. You can only keep the facade up for so long. Agree. Always pay attention to what people say in the heat of the moment. It's what they really think and how they really feel. He felt bad for what he said, so he brought her to bed. But it doesn't change what he said. He showed his true colors when he said those things to her. I think you know deep down the answer to your question, and nothing he could say would explain away the truth. Regardless of what he has said before, he has deep-rooted feelings that he is more attractive and better than you. I could never ever be vulnerable and feel loved if my husband said that to me. He should feel like you are a catch and the best thing that ever happened to him. There are some things that just can't be unsaid. That's what I'm afraid of. Because if he said what you meant, does that mean he looks down on me? That he thinks he's attractive enough to cheat on me? I feel very numb. I know I'm not as attractive as my husband, but I also have good qualities. No one is suffering by being my husband.
Update. Am I the idiot for not putting my mom in a nursing home? Original post. I 19 male, live with my dad 53 male, brothers 17 male and 15 male, and my mom 43 female. My mom is the most beautiful soul ever. Always there for us. Encouraged us in whatever dream or goal we had. But 2 years ago, my mom suffered a major stroke. She fought hard to learn to be able to walk and talk again, and we were with her every step of the way. Things were going great until this past year because my mom now has unknown neurological disorders that renders her paralyzed to at times almost a vegetative state. In between those times she's fine, but can't be left alone. My dad is a truck driver but comes home every weekend, and we have a nurse who helps during the day while we're at school or work. Then I was offered a full ride at one of our country's top universities when I graduated. My family, friends, and my girlfriend was so excited about it. But none as much as my mom. I was excited too, but I just couldn't do it. I couldn't leave my mom's care on just my dad and brothers. My girlfriend thinks I'm sick because I have zero problem feeding my mom, changing her diaper, bathing her, dressing her, carrying her outside to sit in her chair. Neither does my dad or brothers. My girlfriend recently told my mom that she was destroying my life and it would be best if she went to a home where others could deal with her. My mom sat us all down crying and apologized to us for being a burden. Told us she was going to look at homes so we could be free to live our lives. When we finally found out why she was saying this, Dad lost it. I called my girlfriend and told her to stay the heck away from me and my family, that she was a cold-hearted witch who belongs in hell. She called me a sick pervert, and now I have people talking about how I'm in an inappropriate relationship with my mom. I'm still angry because my mom is hurting and depressed. None of us want her in a home. But if it's really what mom wants, are we being selfish if we don't put her in one? Now for the top comments before reading the updates. Not the idiot, your hopefully ex-girlfriend, was so far out of line that the line was a dot to her. That said, your mom's condition is a burden. She can't help it, nobody can. She isn't a burden, but her condition is. She's in no state to be taken care of by a family that needs their own lives. There are facilities and professionals for that, and I think all of you should sit down and talk this through as a family. It's nobody's business to tell someone how they feel about the situation. I hated my aunts for telling me to put my mom in a home when she got sick. I didn't ask for anybody's opinion and didn't ask for help in any way, shape, or form. My mom passed earlier this year, and I won't ever talk to her family again for this reason. Caretakers obviously know what situation they're in, and some decide they'll take it so they can be with their loved ones. My mom would have been horrified if she understood how she was living in the end, but I have no regrets, as most caretakers that I've met in therapy and support groups don't. Nobody needs an outsider's opinion on their family and what should be done with them. Mind your business. Your girlfriend is a complete jerk. You need to take the dream university. I can promise you that more than anything in the world, your mom wants you to have your future. That has been her dream for the past 19 years. Seeing you succeed will give her more peace and happiness than you could imagine. I agree with the first part. But also, I wonder if OP could reach out to the dream school and ask for deferral, either until mom is more stable, which sounds unlikely, or until they can get better support networks in place for her. OP, dad, and brothers sound like they're pushing as hard as they can, and like the whole family is just made of love. And I wonder if OP would truly feel comfortable putting home to the back of the mind, and truly enjoying the experience if they had to leave now. Not allowing your mom to make her own decision on this would be the only idiotic thing you have done or could do. She's been through hell. Do not deny her the agency and respect to make this decision for herself. You do not have to agree with her choice or her reasons in order to support the decision of an adult you love. Mom's only making a decision about going into a care home out of guilt due to the hopefully ex-girlfriend. So this is a coerced decision, not a fair one to make. Small update. Dad's taking a couple weeks off. I sent him a link to this so he could read all the comments. Granted, ultimately any decisions will be made by him and Mom, but he wants us all to sit down together and talk. I do want to let y'all know that I'm still going to school, but instead of an Ivy League, I'm going to University of Arkansas. My middle brother Jake is studying diesel mechanics, and Johnny the youngest has a ways to go before graduating high school and joining the Navy. Girlfriend is now in the X category. I'll let y'all know what happens after Dad and Mom talk with us. And now for the full update. So in the span of just a few days a lot has happened. 1. Mom found my post and commented. She also found out that my ex had accused me of having an inappropriate relationship with my mom. 2. Yes, I got into Harvard, but I gave that up to help care for Mom. I now go to University of Arkansas. My dreams of becoming a doctor hasn't changed, just the path. So Dad came home and took Mom out. I guess they had fun because they left frowning and came home stupid smiling. This morning the smiles dropped when we got a knock on the door. Apparently, Mom invited my viper of an ex and her family over. In a true hostess fashion, Mom was very nice with the small talk for a few minutes, then lowered the boom. Apparently, a few years ago Mom took care of ex's grandparents in a nursing home. She flat out asked if my ex thought Mom was being inappropriate with her grandparents because she changed them, bathed them, and helped dress them. The look on my ex's parents' faces was priceless. When asked what Mom was talking about, Mom explained that my ex was going around telling people that I was in a relationship with her because of me taking care of her. They thought we had broken up because I had cheated. When her dad found out what she'd been saying about my mom and I, he apologized to us and then lost it on her. After they left, we had a family meeting. Mom said she wants to go to a home because she doesn't want any of us to have resentment for giving up being normal teens or our dreams for her. She also feels like she has become a hardship on Dad. Dad just looked at her and informed her that her place was by his side. Unless it was unsafe for her physically, then he'd just move into a nursing home with her. As for me, I told her I'm fine with where I am. My brothers agreed too. We go out with friends, though most of our friends prefer to hang at our house. We go on dates, we're normal teens. We did come to a compromise that we'd revisit the issue in a year. Unfortunately, the stress has caused an issue, so Mom is at the spa, aka the hospital tonight with Dad. Thanks again, everyone. Your mom is such a badass, saying all that to your ex-girlfriend in front of your family. I'm not a badass, but thank you, dear, for saying that. Makes me feel good. Showed Pops, and he said he should get me a leather jacket I can wear on the new bike he got. I can be his badass biker babe. You have a wonderful life, sweetie. Are you the mom? I didn't know you as of 2 minutes ago, but I am now madly in love with you. This small tidbit about you and your family's life is more than enough to understand why they want so much to take proper care of you. I wish you all the very best. Yes, and Mama, I hope you follow your dreams and achieve them. Remember, the roads of life may be bumpy and full of obstacles, but you can still reach your goals. The stars can be reached, sweetie. The only one who can hold you back is yourself. Lots of love. I want to be your mom when I grow up. OP's mom, you're a beast, and you've clearly raised a trio of great boys. Best of luck to all y'all, wherever and however you guys choose to go, and may your ex have triple fudge shards in an all-white outfit. She's special. Even now, if my ex showed up needing help, my mom would help. I hope wherever your destination is, you know there is many roads to get there. And as Mom says, the journey is half the fun. Good for you and your dad and brothers for knowing and understanding what your own limits are and what you know you are all able to handle. Your mom sounds like an amazing lady, and you are all lucky to have each other. We learned by watching Mom and Dad. Dad would wake us up on a Saturday to go to Lowe's before they opened, because a neighbor needed help. He'd load us up in his rig, buy everything we'd need. Mom would meet us with groceries. She'd be cooking up a storm while we built ramps, widened doorways, and installed safety equipment. Sometimes they wouldn't be home, so a little elf would open a door. Mom also cleaned the house. They taught us by actions to care for people by doing, not just by words. Next story. Am I wrong for calling my mom pathetic, stupid, and a terrible person? My older sister's husband passed away years ago. They have 2 sons, 12 and 11. Should probably specify that her husband passed when the boys were 6 and 7. My sister is single by choice and has stated that she has 0 plans on dating or marrying anyone. She says she only loves and trusts one man, and that her love life isn't worth the risk of her kids getting hurt. Well, our mom has been consistently trying to get her married to Mike. He's a lot older though, while his daughter is a lot younger. Also, he and my sister do not get along, especially since my sister is more relaxed in terms of parenting, while he's more strict. He's also made comments on how if they were to get married, he would never see her sons as his own, and he has called them competition before, but he fully expects her to raise his child. It's ridiculous. Another fun coincidence is that my oldest nephew and Mike share the same birthday. Now that her boys are older, she lets them hang out with their friends, and then when they come home, she organizes a little celebration. She loves birthdays, so she goes all out. My sister and I were decorating the house for the birthday when we got a text from Mom saying, "Come quick, urgent." We panicked and started calling, but she wasn't answering, so we quickly drove over and were greeted by tons of cars parked outside the house and lots of noise and music. Turns out, our mom threw a party for Mike and tricked my sister into coming. Our mom didn't even say hi and just went, "I have some party clothes in my room." My sister was in so much disbelief and started to cry, but our mom was still trying to usher her into the house. She just ran back to the car. My mom looked at me and went, "Can you go talk to her? Mike's gonna be so happy to see her." I don't think y'all understand how shocked I was. My mom just would not accept that my sister does not want Mike in any way. So I ended up calling my mom pathetic, stupid, and a terrible person. My mom started to cry and started to ask me what my problem was. She said that she's my mother and that I need to have some freaking respect. Besides, this isn't even about you. I just rolled my eyes and walked off, but my dad heard and started yelling at me, saying that I'd better apologize or else. My parents don't even get along, and our other siblings said that our mom's getting a lot of support, so now I'm wondering if I was the idiot for what I said. Am I? Harshly worded appropriate comments. Your sister should be telling your mother to f off with the importuning. One no should be enough, even for her. And your mother's methods bite the big one. I'd be livid and likely calling her far worse. Your sister is responsible for deciding when she's capable of trusting another person in her life, and only your sister. If it's been years, perhaps some concern is justified, and suggestions to get help to deal with loss appropriate, but not move on. Here's someone. Not wrong. My sister has said no multiple times, which is why she could only cry in frustration and disbelief. Also, while I was sort of concerned, I don't think there is a need for concern, if that makes sense. My sister could date if she wanted to and all that, but she just does not feel the need to. She is, according to herself, pretty much content. As I said, that last is entirely on your sister to determine, and I'm glad to hear she's content with life as it is for now. She's being far nicer to your mother than I would be by simply leaving as she has. Your mother has to know that she's actively damaging her relationship. Not the idiot. Gross. What the heck is wrong with your mom? This guy sounds horrible for your sister. The guy sounds horrible for anyone. He is. He also got into a really bad argument with her eldest son a couple months ago and called him terrible things. Just a weird and strange man overall. Info: did your mom really interrupt your sister setting up for her own kid's birthday and expect your sister to stay at Mike's birthday and miss her son's? Yes. Is this a change from past behavior? Is there a chance this is a sign of early dementia? Or does Mike just have a crapload of money or something? Nah, she's always tried to control our lives, she's just never been this stubborn. Last story. Am I wrong for telling my husband not to co-sign on his ex-wife's house? I, 34 female, met Steven, 49 male, 2.5 years ago. It was an unexpected love match, but I found him to be funny and kind and charming, and we had loads in common. We got married about a year ago, and everything's been great between us. Steven was married to Tiffany, 49 female, for 7 years, and they divorced 11 years ago, and they share a 12-year-old son, Taylor. Tiffany and Steven both worked in healthcare and met in school. He's a doctor, she was a nurse. Their relationship ended when Tiffany admitted to infidelity and an affair shortly after Taylor was born. Steven and Tiffany divorced, and she lived with the man she had an affair with for 9 years. She had 1 child with him, and they have since broken up. She then met another man and had another child with him. They have also since broken up. This is relevant because several years ago, Tiffany opted to let her nursing license lapse and to stay home with her kids. The 3 fathers of her kids all pay child support, with Steven paying the largest amount due to his income. He has no problem with child support and loves his son. The issue arose after Tiffany's last breakup. She moved into a rental and then tried to get a mortgage approved to buy a house for her and the kids. But because Tiffany doesn't work and only has child support as her income, she cannot qualify to get a mortgage on her own. She has asked Steven to co-sign and is laying on a heavy guilt trip about it being what's best for his son and that his son needs a home with lake access. I don't know why. We live on a lake and Taylor is rarely in the water when he's with us. The home she's currently renting is lovely, spacious, and she can afford it, and Taylor has never expressed unhappiness about where they currently live when he's with us. When Steven told me this, I flat out told him not to do it. Not only do I not trust Tiffany not to destroy his credit, I also don't understand why she can't go out and get her license and start working again. There is a nursing shortage in our area, and they are generously paid. She has family nearby that will happily care for the kids. We'll take Taylor more often, and if she's unwilling to do this, then why not continue renting? Steven told me I was being harsh on her, and that it's understandable that she wants to own her own home. He's also said that he doesn't think she would damage his credit by defaulting on the mortgage. I was married before Steven, but I don't have kids. That being said, it cost me thousands to make sure my ex-husband would never have access to my finances again. Am I the fool for thinking that co-signing on a house with his ex is a bad move, and that she should go get a job if she wants to own a home? Now for the top comments before reading the update. No, this is a disaster waiting to happen. The only logical answer doesn't get more cut and dry than this. If, and that's a big if, he really wants to be involved in the ex's house situation, maybe it would be better if he bought and owned the house alone. Ex can rent from him so he knows everything will be paid in time. Rent could even be deducted from child support. But it's still a risk for him after his son becomes 18. Except don't deduct from child support, but move the money back and forth, or it's gonna look like OP's husband is suddenly paying a lot less child support, which could end up very badly depending on where they live. Not wrong, it's messy, and signing the mortgage means he will have to pay it, especially since he won't be on the house. It means it's all risk and no reward. It's a nice house on a lake. Unless OP and Steven are living in an area of the country that is uniformly distressed, this house will be quite in demand. And now for the update. I appreciate the many responses. Steven and I had a long talk about this when he got home from his conference. We discussed the issues this raises, and we both agreed it's a bad idea that would strain our relationship. He admitted that he was concerned that Tiffany would use his refusal to alienate his son, but also knows Taylor is old enough to come directly to him now if he needs to. He also apologized for worrying me and assured me he would have never moved forward without my consent, but wanted me to be in the know of what Tiffany was up to. I thanked him for being honest with me about what was happening, and knew I would have felt deceived if he hadn't told me, even if he was saying no to her. We did discuss the option of buying and renting the home to her, but the idea of maybe being forced to evict her due to non-payment made us both pour another drink. In the end, he messaged his ex that while he will always be there for Taylor, he can't in good faith co-sign on a mortgage for her. She saw it and left him on red. This is about as good an outcome as I could hope for, and my husband and I were able to validate each other's feelings and ultimately come to a decision that we feel is right for us. Thank you again for your responses, and it's been an interesting day reading all of them. I am now going to return to my quiet lurker profile. Update. Girlfriend wanted an open relationship, so I broke up with her. Now she wants to get back together. Original post. I, 23 male, was dating my ex, 23 female. Up until a month ago, we were together for 4 years before that. So, before we broke up, she was acting distant for a good month, then as of last month sat me down and asked for an open relationship. The minute those words came out of her mouth, I broke up with her. I came into this relationship expecting a monogamous relationship, and now she wanted to change the relationship. I only want to be with one person, and if we couldn't agree on that, I saw no future. And with the way she was acting before this, I just can't trust her, and even if she wasn't acting shady, I wouldn't be able to trust her anyway for suggesting it. Those are some of the reasons I decided to break up with her in that moment, even though it might seem harsh. In my opinion, if someone wants a relationship like that, the relationship should start like that for it to be healthy, not just dumped on your partner after years of monogamy. Now I've been getting texts and voicemails from her, crying to take her back, and that she didn't mean it. I'm not sure what to think. Some people have been telling me that I acted too rash, and didn't even give us time to work it out, and that it was cruel of me to do that. Is this something I acted too quick with or not? Now for the top advice before reading the update. I think you did the right thing. I was in a similar situation, and I'm thankful that I stuck with the decision to break up with her. Any doubts you have currently will fade with time. You can't help but suspect that she suggested this because she already knew who she wanted to sleep with, given that she was distant for a month leading up to this. The only time I think an open relationship has a chance is if you are on good terms when it's suggested, not distant for a month leading up to it, and you are both on board from the get-go. Neither applies in your case. Completely agree that it needs to be from the get-go. Nope. You went with your instincts and they were correct. If she wants to sleep with other people, she can do it without you. I don't understand why she feels like she needs you. You gave her exactly what she wanted. Why isn't she happy? Exactly, she got what she wanted. A pass to sleep with other people, just without the boyfriend. Good for you. She probably had someone in mind, it didn't work out, and now she's crawling back. You know what you want in a relationship, and she's not it. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if I found out that she cheated, either emotionally or physically already, and was just trying to use it as an excuse. I can't trust a person who suddenly wants to turn a monogamous relationship into an open or poly one, especially with the way she was acting the month before this all happened. I spend too much time on this sub, and situations like yours almost always seem to start with a partner getting a wandering eye and wanting to cheat without consequences, so the idea of open relationships gets brought up. I think your instincts are correct. I commend you for being put together enough to know what you want, and secure enough to not compromise your values. She meant it. The new guy just didn't work out. You're just the backup, and after 4 years, that's all you'll ever be. There's no future for you with her. That's what I'm thinking. New guy or girl didn't work out, or it wasn't what she actually wanted. Your ex should be blocked on everything. She failed the life partner test, and there's no unringing the bell. And now for the update. I thought I would give an update since people DM me to post one when I can. I didn't expect to update this soon though. After posting and expressing to some people that I had a suspicion she cheated on me, I couldn't get the nagging feeling out of my head. I didn't want to know at first, but decided to go digging and ask mutual friends what ex had been up to that month she was acting shady. I didn't expect one of her closest friends to spill the beans, but she did. My suspicions were correct. She had been cheating on me with a mutual friend's cousin. So I decided to message the guy on Facebook, and when I messaged him, he wanted to meet in person, so I met him at a local pub. When I got there, he apologized and explained everything. How he didn't know she was in a relationship, and that the day she called me wanting me back is the day he found out and broke it off. I can't fault the guy, he seemed genuine and really apologetic. On the plus side, I drank for free the entire time. He seems like a great guy, especially considering how he broke it off right away once he knew. I won't lie, he's a handsome and great guy, and I would let him bang me to rub it in my ex's face lol. But at least I have a bit of closure now. I've blocked my ex on everything, and I'm gathering her stuff she left here to mail to her so she doesn't come knocking. It's taking a lot of power not to leave a note in the box along the lines of "Mark seems nice, too bad you lost him too." Sorry if some of this makes no sense, I'm typing this on phone, and my fat thumbs are doing me no favors. It also doesn't help I'm a bit tipsy, but I'm glad I could vent and get advice from you beautiful people of Reddit. I can't fault the guy, he seemed genuine and really apologetic. On the plus side, I drank for free the entire time. He seems like a great guy, especially considering how he broke it off right away once he knew. I won't lie, he's a handsome and great guy, and I would let him bang me to rub it in my ex's face lol. When I read this, instantly in my mind the word legendary popped up. Well, he is a great fellow. For what it's worth, you seem to also be a great fellow. Good for you, man. Congrats. Sounds like you made a new friend at least. Though. We have each other's numbers now, so we'll probably hang out with him again. So happy you found out the truth. It hurts now, believe me, I know from personal experience, but you will move on. Definitely hang out with Mark, seemed like a cool dude. Don't rush back into dating, enjoy the single life. Hey, you might have a close friend out of the mix. My closest friend for about a decade was the other guy. In the beginning I hated him and he wasn't as genuine as this guy, and I even ran him over with my car. We were best friends for about 10 years after that. Reminds me of my best friend. Hated him and he hated me. Got in a punch-up one day, then somehow became best friends. Next story. 28 male, 29 female. My girlfriend cheated on me. I have decided to end things after a month of deliberation, but the situation has become complicated. As per the title, my girlfriend of 5 years informed me that she had cheated on me with one of her friends whilst on a trip away. She had always gone on a lot of trips with people, one-on-one or in small groups, but I trusted her and had no issues with this. She informed me 3 months after it happened that she had slept with one of her friends in a hotel room. She actually discussed it with a mutual friend first before telling me, to ask whether she should actually inform me, which upset me a bit more on top of the act itself. She claims this was a one-time thing, and nothing like this had happened or would happen again. She was obviously very remorseful, but this was still a massive shock. She had cheated on a past boyfriend, which always worried me a bit, but he was an awful partner, so I understood to some extent the circumstances. My initial instinct was to break up, but I decided to give it a couple of months on the basis that she would show what I believe to be remorse and steps to change herself. Part of me worries that I initially made this decision based on the complications of a breakup, being that we own a house together and have a dog. I pushed this to the side though, as I genuinely loved her and didn't want things to end. I realized shortly before Christmas that this wasn't working for me, as I can no longer see a future with her. We had discussed marriage and kids, but I can't imagine that with someone who cheated on me. I decided to wait until after Christmas to break up, so as to not complicate existing holiday plans. However, on Christmas Eve, her dad was diagnosed with late-stage cancer. Doctors have suggested he has around 3 months to live, though it could be less. My girlfriend, who is a nurse, has stopped working temporarily to become a full-time carer for her dad along with her sister, as they don't really have anyone else who can help. Part of me thinks I should delay the breakup, and one of my friends thinks it would be cruel to break up with her now, with everything going on. I think it would be worse for me to now hold off on breaking up with her, as I have no idea how long it is before it would be a good time for it. I presume there will never be a great time, but this timing is particularly awful. I feel terrible about this timing though, and despite what she has done, I would like to remain friends with my girlfriend due to groups of mutual friends, and because she has been my best friend for like 7 years now. I don't want to ruin any chance at friendship by doing something rash, but I think it would be wrong to stay with her when I know I want to end things. She has moved back in with her dad and is coming home to our shared house once or twice a week currently. Should I break up with her when she comes back for one of these visits? I feel horrid, and I don't know if that's the right way to approach the situation, or if anyone can suggest a good way to tackle this. Sorry for any errors, I'm stressing a bit at the moment, and have written this on a bit of a whim, as my friends who I would discuss this with have got very different opinions. Now for the top comments. There's never a good time to break up with someone. In my opinion, better to break up now than to delay it and stay when you're obviously not feeling it. Senior year of high school, my best friend's girlfriend broke up with him. I took him out to talk about it, and while we were out, his mother was hit by a car and died. Everyone told his ex-girlfriend that she should take him back, etc. She did not. It was awful, but now as an adult, I think she did the right thing. There is never a perfect time. Awesome, first comment was the only good bit of advice from what I've read, so thanks for that. Pretty much what I was thinking, just going to be difficult. Sorry to anyone who has more to say, I won't be checking this account again. She wasn't thinking about anyone but herself when she cheated, and sometimes you need to think the same way to free yourself from people like that. Best of luck. I know this is going to sound odd, but this might actually be a good time to break up with her if you are still on cordial terms, but not in the normal relationship phase. She's going to need a lot of support and maybe saying, I want to support you as a friend, but I think our relationship needs to be put aside and for you to concentrate on your dad. This isn't a good time, but you also can't know when a good time will be. What if her father lives more than 3 months? How long do you allow her to grieve after he passes before breaking up? If you try to wait for a kinder time, you could be waiting 6 months or even longer. By then, she could still be upset and blindsided because you'd be breaking up for her cheating nearly a year ago when she thought everything was fine between you two. I think unfortunately even waiting until the holidays was a misstep, but a very kind and good-natured one. If I were you, I would break it off as soon as possible, and if you still want to be kind, you could offer to take the lead on the house sale, help her move her things or organize others to do it, and anything else that lets her focus on her family and less on the breakup. You don't have to do that, I don't think she deserves it, but you do seem to want to hurt her as little as possible, and I think that's really big of you given the circumstances. Thankfully, you'll have the house to yourself in the meantime, it seems, so you won't have to be near each other often. I would break it off with her sleeping in separate beds, but tell her you'd be willing to put off selling the house, etc. until it's easier for her to manage. That way, she won't have to try to juggle going back and forth between 2 houses if she'd rather stay at her dad's. Last story. My male 23, girlfriend female 24, cheated on me 3 years ago. As weird as it may sound, this is really a situation I am in right now. Me and my girlfriend are together for more than 5 years. One friend of mine told me some accusations of my girlfriend cheating in January 2022, but had nothing to back it up with. Since then, I caught myself not being able to get rid of that weird feeling that she actually might have cheated on me. Around 3 days ago, I decided to go through her phone out of the blue. I had no real reason for it at the time, but still did it. Fair enough, I found something in her chat with her female best friend. It was about when I confronted my girlfriend with the accusations my friend made, and to my surprise, they were plotting how to not admit to me that my girlfriend cheated, and to keep the truth away from me. It wasn't that hard to find something to back it up after that in her chats with the guy she cheated on me with, as she is still friends with him. In the past, she told me that she slept with him before we became a thing. When I found out that she cheated, I wasn't sad, not even angry. To my sincere confusion, I felt relief. She was lying to me for over 3 years, and now I had proof. When I confronted her yesterday and I asked her about it, she still denied it. She broke down and said she was sorry, only when I told her that I have proof and it might be over. She told me crying that she couldn't tell me because I would be hurt. Truth be told, I know that she knew I could leave her, and that's why she didn't tell me. She didn't show any remorse during those 3 years. How am I supposed to believe her now? Since then, she is trying to win me back, telling me not to throw away everything beautiful we've been through, and I am not sure how to act. It is my first relationship and one could say my first true love, and after 5 years, it feels really hard to let go. We are together since I was 17, and I could say we grew up together. I suffer from clinical depression and she held me through my ups and downs, making it even harder. One part of me wants to be with her for some reason, but the more rational part knows that it's not possible. Because of all that, my head is a big mess right now. I don't wish this to anyone and feel sorry for everyone that had to go through something similar. Your response to her is this: I know now you will lie to me to keep the truth from hurting me, going so far as to conspire with friends to keep the truth from me. You're also willing to do things that require you to lie to me. You knew I could never know about this and still be happy, and you chose to do it anyway. I know that I will never know the truth from you without becoming a snoopy, suspicious bastard, and I don't want to be that person. You mention all the good times we had, but those good times depended all the while on me not knowing the truth. I don't want to need to be in the dark to be happy, so I'm moving on. I feel like this is something that I needed to hear from someone else. Thank you very much. You need to break up with her. She conspired with her friends to keep this from you, and still hangs out with the dude she cheated with. If she was actually remorseful, she would have cut it off with him, but she didn't. You'll never trust her again. You can forgive her, but it will never be the same man. End it and find someone who respects you, because she clearly doesn't. How are you throwing everything away? Pretty sure she did that by cheating, and even planning with her friend how to hide it from you. She is not sorry about sleeping with someone else, she is sorry she got caught. She and her friend are for the streets. Still friends with the affair guy. Damn, she never took that knife from your back, did she? How the hell does she expect you to believe that she has been truthful with any of her activities in the whole relationship, when she is bold enough to keep him anywhere near her? Keep strong, do what's needed to leave this all behind.